All right, so we have the greatest show of the event now coming up. That's the panel discussion that will be read by Mr. Rajiv Kaul, who is here amongst us. So I'll quickly introduce all of them here one by one so that they can come up on stage and start with the interactions. Mr. Rajiv Kaul, everyone knows, he doesn't need any introduction. But since I've been entrusted with this job to introduce, so I will speak a few words about him. He's the Executive Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of CMS Infosystems. CMS is India's largest cash management and payment solutions firm and the world's fifth largest ADM cash management company. Mr. Rajiv has also spent a decade with Microsoft Corporation in various leadership roles in India and the US, including as country manager for the India region. A big round of applause for Mr. Rajiv Kaul there. Thank you. We have Mr. V. Vaidyanathan also here amongst us, who is the Executive Chairman for Capital First. Again, he does not need any introduction, but I'll speak a few words about him too. Mr. Vaidyanathan founded the Capital First by first acquiring an equity stake in an existing NBFC, changing its business model, and then executing a management buyout. He was also the MD and CEO of ICICI Prudential Life Insurance and an executive director on the board of ICICI Bank. He was also the chairman of ICICI Home Finance Company Limited and served on the board of CIBIL, India's first credit bureau. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Mr. V. Vaidyanathan. We have Mr. Karan Bajaj there. I already introduced him briefly. He's sponsored our event for the day, as far the diamond sponsorship was concerned. He heads the Discovery Networks International in India, South Asia. And he, in fact, has a personal passion for storytelling and writing fictions. So I was talking about Mr. Karan Bajaj. He's into storytelling and writing fiction novels. So his best-selling novels are, some of them are Penguin Random House and HarperCollins. A big round of applause for Mr. Karan Bajaj sitting right over there. Thank you.
I think the applause needs to be louder, please. They've taken out your schedule after a lot of persuasion, cancelling certain important things. So let's clap big for them.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sheetal. Do we have Arup here? Mr. Arup? Hi. Okay, so next I'll introduce Mr. Arup Zutshi. He does not need any introduction either. But speaking a few words about him, he sits on the corporate board of Frost & Sullivan Inc. And as the global president and managing partner, Mr. Arup has been responsible for Frost & Sullivan's expansion of business across 32 countries. And besides being responsible for managing Frost & Sullivan, Mr. Arup also works with Fortune 500 companies in designing their growth strategies. A big round of applause for Mr. Arup there. Thank you. Do we have Mr. Himanshu? Already, okay. So Mr. Himanshu Kapania, he's on the way and will be with us here very shortly. In the meantime, I'll just announce him. So everyone knows him. I mean, he doesn't need any introduction at all. He is currently the managing director of Idea Cellular Limited and serves as the director with Idea Birla Management Corporation Private Limited, the strategic advisory unit of Aditya Birla Group. Mr. Himanshu is a veteran in the Indian telecom industry. I can tell it because I'm also from the telecom industry. So he's a very famous personality. He has contributed immensely to its evolution and has engineered Idea's fast-paced growth, making it one of the top players and fastest-growing mobile operators in India. Mr. Himanshu was also the former chairman of Cellular Operators Association of India, the body representing Internet of GSM operators in India. He was also on the GSMA board, the international body formulating and driving global GSM ecosystem. I will welcome Mr. Himanshu once he is here. A big round of applause, even if he's not here. Thank you, gentlemen.
Done. So
can we call upon everyone on the stage here?
Hand over to Rajiv.
Okay.
So in the meanwhile, right, Rajiv, me and I think most of the youngsters, I'm already feeling professionally contented by being part of such accomplished alumni. So thank you, the seniors, for making us feel so proud of Bitosa and you all.
Absolutely, Sheetal. Believe me, I mean, I'm also feeling very proud of being a part of such a great alumni among us. Thank you so much.
You guys shouldn't be feeling contented at all, right? The idea is to come and try and share and hopefully inspire. So don't be content. Can I get my friends on stage? Karan, Arup, Vaidya. So I don't know, the seating arrangement is a little bit quizzical. I will let people decide where they want to sit. I have a very bad back. I will hopefully sit somewhere more comfortable. I'm not, I think that's great. I'll be here, yeah. You're the young guy, Karan. So I think we have, this is 2 years of Bitosa Mumbai. It started from a plan and a passion of some people who have then, with their infectious enthusiasm, roped in many, many more people. We are deeply grateful to have a lot of seniors here. Mr. Burman, thank you for being here. We are grateful to Arup to fly from Malaysia to Kathmandu to Mumbai only for this evening before he flies to Sri Lanka? Or Chennai, okay, which is okay, as close to Sri Lanka as you can get. But we are very grateful. Himanshu, please. We've already introduced you. So I think since the last time we met 12 months ago, it's been a fairly intensive year in India. We had demonetization happening last time when we met. We had GST and whatnot. I think it's quite packed from what all of us have gone through. What we wanted to do, I think, was very clear. One, Bitosa Mumbai, we said we have a lot of work to do. All of us have noble intentions of trying to do something for the alma mater. I think the college has a lot of resources at stake. And we said, in Mumbai, the first thing we can do is, if we are the financial capital of the country, let's try and make all our efforts and attempts to create an alumni network which can be of use to each other. And I think for the next 2-3 years, our focus will remain to create a networking opportunity for people where you can share and learn and help, either ask for help or take help. And if you can do that, I think we'll feel very, very satisfied. I think that's sort of the agenda for the evening. We have collected a fairly amazing set of panelists. I don't want to say just people who are achievers. I think they're very interesting personalities or people, and I hope that I can get them to share a couple of their nuggets to all of you. We have, after this session, planned, all of these events are done for networking, but networking really doesn't happen because people stick to their friends and their batchmates, and we have, I like to disrupt things. I don't like things to go into, like last year, I remember people were the same batch, especially Sanjeeva's batch was like partying and drinking at the 83 batches, and I had some fun with them, but I wish they could meet other people. This year, we planned a little bit of an interesting format, high intensity for you to force you to get to know other people and get out of your comfort zone. And I hope that you can take some connections away from here, because I think that's frankly why we want to do this. We are not here to have a drink and food. All of us can do it any other place. The reason I say this is all of us have different personalities. All of us think differently about networking connections. But you'll be amazed at how you don't know who and when and what opportunities come up in life and who can help you wherever it is. It's not for a job, it's not for something, but it is, there are a lot of commonalities here. Karan and I bumped into each other accidentally a year ago, and I discovered, again accidentally, he was from BIT, and I said, I'm being made a murga for BIT Bitosa Mumbai. I need one more murga, so we roped him into the effort. I met Vaidya many years ago he was in college at the same time, but we don't know each other. And then Vaidya was in ICICI, where I met him a couple of times. He was telling me about his entrepreneurial journey and how his journey started by meeting the right private equity people on a plane, and who decided to back him up. And that story post that is just very famous. Arup and I are college, nowhere close to the same batch, but Kashmiri connection, and we like to feel very, like a limited minority, which we are. So there are many connections which come up in life and help, and I think it's amazing when people make an effort to come here. And I hope you can gain from here, and hopefully you will contribute to Bitosa Mumbai in the coming years. So that's my opening preamble. I will start getting on to some Q&A. I'm going to take help of some notes here. So first and foremost, I think this one is actually not a written question. I was chatting with Vaidya before, but I'm going to start from you. 38, you are on the board of ICICI, doesn't get bigger than that, and you left it all up. And you went into doing crazy things. Today looks great, but at that time, what the hell was wrong with you at that time?
Actually, it's a very good question. The honest answer is that we used to often watch India those days, there was a big hype about India those days, and I think maybe deservedly. Everybody used to talk about suddenly discovered the new India, and everyone said that India is going to grow at 8%, 10% per year, and people started talking of India becoming a $10 trillion economy by 2040. And then I thought, man, all the while we're talking, how do I be a part of this rather than just being an observer and commentator of this situation? Right. And that's where it all started. And then I also felt that, there's so much opportunity in India in financial services. So my only wish was very simple. I used to think that can I promote a private sector bank myself rather than work with one? So this is where it started. Then I started figuring out how to promote a private sector bank, how to get a license. Okay, you don't get a license so easily in India. So then I thought, okay, why don't I take an NBFC and then convert it to a bank later? Then I said, okay, that's not also very easy because NBFC license takes a long time. Then I said, okay, let me take an existing NBFC, take a stake in it, and try to build it up. So, I mean, one thing led to the other.
Fantastic. So we now know the direction the company is going forward at least.
But this was the original thought. Now things will play itself as it plays itself out.
Karan, what's the update on your movie plans? Have you written any other book or 3 books only and you're stopping there?
Three, stop.
Stop.
Yeah.
Stopping there right now. What's the movie update?
The movie plan is
So Karan's got 3 famous books. I have 3 of them, but I've read only one. Yeah. And I think that's the one he's making into a movie. Yeah. He said, if I can read a book, then I think that should be into a movie now.
Yeah, so the second novel is called Johnny Gone Down. So that's being made into a movie by Ronnie Screwvala and his team. Yeah. So it's like, scripting and casting stuff is going on. So hopefully it should be out by end of next year.
How does it feel when your book, which you've written with passion and you wrote whatever you wanted and only editors could influence you, and now when it's going to be made into a movie, you obviously don't have 100% control on the script.
They don't even ask me anything.
They don't ask you.
Once you sign off your book rights, you're like signing off your soul for, to a different medium. So you got to live with that.
Got it. Himanshu, it's been a pretty intensive time for telecom, right? It's in the news for all the right reasons and the wrong reasons. I remember your comments in some interviews, which I sort of totally emote with, which is, we don't care too much about regulation. We focus on operations and build the scale and build the capability and whatnot. But given the dynamic of, and I don't want to do any political discourse here, but just given the dynamic of how things are changing in India so rapidly, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, hopefully all for the better in the longer term. What do you think about those views today? Sorry, I have to sort of warn all of you. None of the panelists have a clue to what I'm going to ask them. They have no idea. I've not given them any warning, any brief. And some will be good, some will not be good. They may not like me at the end of it, but I just want to make sure that we can learn from them as genuinely as we can.
Well done, Raj. I don't know how much is interest for all of you on specifically on a sector specific, but I think whatever is happening on telecom sector has a share big of impact on the overall Indian economy. And we are going through troubled times. This is a huge amount of financial stress as India transitioned itself from being a hyper-competitive state to now a consolidated sector. But very large investments are underway and very large write-offs is underway. This is the first time in a country where private sector has made huge investments, and we have a big challenge of government seeing infrastructure only if it is spent by government. So if you do build roads, highways, airports, and you'll do lakhs of crores of rupee, that will be called infrastructure. I'm not sure how many of you are aware that mobile infrastructure, the private sector put 7.5 lakh crores. And out of that, 4 lakh crores are in the process of being written off. So just to give you an example, Telenor has currently written off about 60,000 crores. And Videocon, which is a non-entity, has written off 15,000 crores. Tata has will now write off 1 lakh crores put together. And RCom is in the next way out, we should be of a similar order. So, but that is, so life is, we have to now get used to, as we move from what is old and what's new, in spite of the 7.5 lakh crores, 4 lakh crores being written off, another 5.5 lakh crores in the process of building. And India just like has a voice highway, that's what I call. We're in the process of building a broadband highway. And that will be as massive. And in a period of, let's say, another 12 to 24 months, almost 80% of India, which will be over 400,000 towns and villages, will have high-speed broadband. And given the rates, it will be 1/10 to 1/15 that of anywhere in the world. And we're not discussing developed world, we're discussing developing world. India will have mobile data consumptions, which will be probably whole of Europe and US put together. That's the volume it will be there, and it will be about 2 times that of China. And we are expecting when we do a whole Asia total, we will have India almost half of Asia total. That's the volume expected. But primarily because of rate and huge capacity that's got built in. But still, India, we have a big challenge. That's only about 300 million, currently only about 150 million Indians use internet. And how do we get a non-user of internet services who's not in the space, who's not educated, who doesn't know how to use an email or a search function, how will he get into this? So I think there's a big challenge. It's easy to put up infrastructure, it's easy to get ecosystem in place, but how do you get our population go digital? I think it's a massive exercise which government has taken up and private sectors want to really help you out. Maybe, sorry, a sermon, huh? A little serious tone.
That helps me take me to the last, actually I'm going to change sections here. But, I think whether you said it once, which is in India you can do anything. And I sort of wanted to get Arup's view of how Frost & Sullivan, which consults and partners with so many sectors around the world. Arup is the managing partner globally. You travel to God knows how many countries every month, forget about a year. And yeah, there is a rhetoric and there is a noise and there are the good things about India, but how do you see things when you look at it from a global perspective? What do you think about India and how does it look to you?
I think India's story continues to be exciting for people. Globally, as I talk to the corporate world, I look at governments all over the world. I think the Indian story continues to be quite encouraging, even though we've seen some significant hiccups in the last, I would say, 6 to 12 months. And there are multiple factors, but clearly the 2 factors that are now in public domain include the demonetization and, of course, the recent introduction of GST and of course, some disruptions that have happened because of that. But I think most people worldwide, corporate world, in all parts of the world, see, including our friends in China, look at India as a tremendous growth story for the long term. Nobody is here for short term. They recognize that in practically every industry, India is in its infancy, in its start. You just heard that 150 million people are using internet. So I think the opportunity is great. Patience is important. India is a different market. There are no markets worldwide that is like India. We know, I in fact joke about India when I say India should change its name as a country. And they say, why? I says, India is not India. India is United States of India. And that's why it is an exciting country to be in. So I think if you look at it from a long-term perspective, I think there continues to remain tremendous opportunity. There is optimism. People who enter this market recognize that there are massive challenges in the systems being cleaned up. But I think if you're here for the long term, and we as a company have seen that, you end up benefiting in this country.
When we think of India, there are 3 or 4 things that come to your mind when you talk about people, about India these days. One is people will say, there is no corporate investments happening in India. Then someone will say, there's no job growth in India. Then someone will say that banking system is all stuck up and therefore no investments, the credit is stuck. So therefore, if you stack them up, you can stack them up one after the other. But you can also stack up the fact that consumption is doing very well. You can also stack up the fact that India is progressing at 8% per year, which is per annum, which is quite amazing by any standards. You can also stack up the fact that India is getting more digital. You can also stack up the fact that the financial services bottom of the pyramid is growing. So therefore, depending on where you are in this ecosystem, you're either calling it names or you're calling it a success. Therefore, as it's like the elephant story, people touch different part of the elephant and say different things. That's India. But the reality of India is when you see, if you therefore remove yourself from this daily cacophony and step away and see India, the real India is the one that is, in sum and substance of all these comments, is an India that is growing and is dramatically lifting more and more people into the middle class. And it is a country that is aspirational and is in a country that is seen as a future superpower. That is the reality of India when you see about India as a distance. As people in this ecosystem, therefore, I would sum it up by saying that if we see the positive side of India, there is lots and lots and lots of it. And there is only one thing I have learned in life, that if we are positive, if we be positive, then positive things happens to us. If we are negative, negative thing happens to us. There is someone who once told me a very good quote, one of our board members. He said, look, whatever you speak, there is someone up there who's saying tathastu. Tathastu in Hindi, in Sanskrit is so be it. So be it. If you say negative things, somebody will say so be it. If you say positive things, somebody will say so be it. So this tathastu is the truth that I want to think about.
Karan, you've been here now for 2 years. You left a pretty attractive position at Uber in US, moved here to run Discovery. Is the India story for Discovery in India tier 3, tier 4, or just tier 1, tier 2? And how's the journey been? How do you see it evolving?
Yeah, as Arup rightly said, India is a very unusual market. So to give you an example, Hollywood in India in no given year has been more than 10% of the Indian box office revenues, right? And if I compare it to China, which you would think of being very similar to India, China has a restriction that no more than 17 international movies in any given year, Dangal was one of them, can enter China. And yet, even these 17 movies in China are about 45% of the China box office revenue, right? And if I compare it to any other market in Asia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Hollywood is about 80 to 90% of the box office revenues, right? So when you look at a media sector overall, you are seeing a market which is extremely local in nature. And historically, Discovery has been a importer, right? They've imported content and then they've gotten it in India. And when you do that, you'll always be at the, you'll be playing in what we think of the less than 10% of households who have, I guess, affinity to foreign content. So for any company to get serious about India, you have to enter the next 100 million and the next 100 million. So I think our mandate is very clear. Ki, if you want to be a serious player in India, then you have to enter the next 100 million. Having said that, I think media is one industry where, unlike what Mr. Arup said, everybody is very skeptical about India because वो याद है मुझे हम when I started my career in PNG हमेशा एक चार्ट दिखता था कि एक पाई चार्ट है और इस पाई चार्ट के अंदर देखो 60% of Indians don't use a shampoo. अगर उनको एक साशे भी बेचते हैं तो you'll make $10 billion. And वो एक साशे कभी कोई बेच नहीं पाया types, right? So the truth is that India is a market where a lot of people have come, lost their money and gone back, especially in media, which is a very creative industry in which there is no business model. In the end, a Kaun Banega Crorepati is not it's a creative success. One creative success can make a complete network. And nobody knows what that creative success is. So people are very skeptical about investing in media in India because if I look at G, run by Jack Welch, they did NDTV Imagine, which you won't even remember, but was a general entertainment channel which lost $300 million in India, right? And so there is a lot of skepticism on ki matlab Indian media mein in a creative industry. UTV, Disney, great example. Disney came, they bought UTV. They were a 50-member team in India, and they bought UTV, and they became an 800-member team in India, and now they are laying off all 600 people that they acquired, and they're back to being 45 members again. So you have a track record of people coming in thinking that, ocha, wo ek sachet aur bech ke $1 billion dalenge, aur wo ek sachet bikta nahi hai India mein. You have to be very, so I think the interesting thing is that I think attractive, and then you have to you have to have a very strong person with a very strong vision ki kya karna hai to really attract the money from your, I guess, foreign investors or whatever.
I think even, I don't know how much of your stuff is known publicly and therefore I don't want to say anything much, but the fact the way you are localizing now, I think is quite amazing. That's what all of us in our multinational roles have tried to do if you got the approval for it. And that made a big difference to companies. I remember IDEA was one of the first companies which went big on the Bharat thing, right, Himanshu? I don't know how long back that was. And any insight into what drove that at that time? Was it, I mean, I don't want to judge what it was. Let me ask you what the strategy was and why did your team come up with that insight and follow that up?
So, obviously, India is very complex, and all our friends have been talking about it. So, Rupesh correctly mentioned that there is no one India. There is the heterogeneity of India, and everybody from outside comes in and sees a homogeneous market. It's completely heterogeneous. And if it is, the degree of heterogeneity is so extreme that unless you realize the quantum of heterogeneity, is that you will not be able to go deep. So, our dear friend is asking what happened, why did we go to Bharat? And that's a time, I'm sure all of you heard of Raja. Have you heard of our friend, our telecom minister Raja, who's been made the villain of the telecom business, but what he did was he brought in hyper competition. And there was a time, and that's a time when IDEA was a very small company. We had almost spent 10 years. And the total investment in this company at that point of time was about 2,000 odd crores, and we lost 1,500 crores. Total investment with Aditya Birla Group had put in about 200 crores. Okay, that's the time then we took charge. This is 2007, 2008. Raja comes in, he gives us all the licenses, and we go pan-India. And every big name, whether it is Docomo, Vodafone, comes from Russians, all the Middle East guys, everybody is banged into this. And typically everybody who comes in sees the top urban markets, he sees the first 100 million, then looks at the next 100 million, then at best we go to the third 100 million. And we said that we will leave not only 3, but we leave the fourth 100 million also. We leave the 400 million also, and then we will attack. And from that, and think about it, all of us started the race around the same time there, and from there, we had about presence then in about 1,000 villages. We went to about 4 lakh villages. We only took one IPO, 3,000 crores is what that we borrowed, and based on our simple principle that livers don't know how to do a distribution, we will teach India how to do distribution. We went and created what is known as son of a soil. That means we picked up people who are based out of their local areas and made them run our whole distribution. And we converted every investment into a profit center. Okay, and from there, it's history that we generated 1,40,000 crores of cash when everybody lost money. And there was no investment that came from Aditya Birla Group. There was no investment that came from investors. We generated cash and reinvested all of that. Only thing we made sure that we never returned back any money to any investor. We put it all back into it. So it's we believed that the Bharat of India or the politicians, there is a huge opportunity there. So we are the first guys who went Bharat, now come to India. So we came to Bombay in 2011 when, and we thought Bombay was the last. So Bombay, Bangalore, Chennai, Calcutta, and Delhi obviously we came in 2004, were never our priority areas. Metro, our last town was never a priority area. Go to a smaller town, we build that. So today, what happens is that we are a 19% player. Rural, we have a market share of 25%, but there is, if you go to a small town, okay, we could have market share of 40-45%. So if you decide that there is heterogeneity market and you don't treat it as one market, you can actually absorb a large business. So you have to believe in what you're doing and you have to go after it and overdo it. If you talked about focus and you have to make investments, then you have to if you have a dream, you have to really bet on it, then build it to the extreme. And that is what we've done. So this is exactly when we started our investment in internet services, everybody came they said, okay, it's going to be student, it's going to be elite student who's going to do internet services. We said, yeah, that's true, but that's not meant for us. There is going to be people who are going to fight it. For us, it is going to be, we are going to get the working hands and in the rural markets and get them internet services. So while the market has got, we picked up 40 million people, all rural markets which are currently doing internet services, and we build a 4G network and 3G network today, which covers about 200,000 villages and towns, primarily in the Bharat space. So anyhow, it's a matter of belief and then putting all your money behind that belief.
Arup, thanks. When you were with us last time, you talked about, you shared with the people, and we know the story about how you, in the US, from a small consulting company, had the guts to go borrow money and go and buy out Frost & Sullivan, right? So that's the answer we all know. What I want to know from you now is, tell us, educate us with something, one more life-altering, game-changer move for you, personally or professionally, I don't know. Just want to learn something else.
Wow. I don't think anything was of that magnitude because we put a big risk in what we did in 1993. But I think for me personally, I think the biggest move that I did myself, and of course the company followed through on that, was the realization that, yes, you are all in a corporate world. Obviously, we are driven by top-level performance. We are driven by EBITDA margin performances and giving back to shareholders. I mean, these are all standard stuff everybody does. But I think we came to a point, or at least I realized, that there was something missing in my life and I think the company's evolution, and that was we were not giving. We realized that there is no human part of Frost & Sullivan. Now, what does that mean? That means we never gave back to society. We never got involved in any CSR-related activity, unless, of course, countries forced us to do it, including India. So I thought this game-changing thing we did in 2008 is when we formally launched a company called Frost & Sullivan Institute. The goal of that institute was to look at global challenges, whether it was women empowerment to educating people, to vaccination and all related issues, clean water exactly. And what we then did is took our entire global organization between financial support and time support. We have now made this a prerequisite to every part of Frost & Sullivan globally. So we are supporting orphanages in countries like Malaysia, Indonesia. We are supporting children with AIDS in countries like South Africa, in Nigeria, and likewise in countries like in Brazil and Argentina. We're supporting women who obviously don't have access to good education. And I think like that, we have made this huge change. We're seeing the impact. We're seeing that our employees are excited about that. They want to give more and more and more, including one of the reasons I'm going to Chennai tomorrow is to actually meet a lady who's quite well known in the southern circles. She used to be a film actress before, a lady by the name Gautami. I don't know if you guys know her. So she and I are meeting tomorrow, and she runs an agency, non-profit here, that deals with women education and women health. And so my plan is to talk to her to see what we can do as a company to support her initiative in India. So I think for me personally, and maybe I'm getting older, but I think that was a big kind of a mindset change, and the fact that we were able to execute it, I thought was a big game changer, in addition to many other corporate things that we have done. Since that acquisition, we've done multiple acquisitions. Since that acquisition, we've gone global. Since that acquisition, the company has multiplied many, many times over, made all kinds of margins, and now, of course, we are planning to go public finally in a few years from now. But I think that was a big change, and I am very excited about sharing that, and I hope all of you who are in great companies, if you're involved, great. If you're not, then I think you should seriously look at that and see if there are ways in which you can contribute to the society. And I fundamentally believe that we all owe this. It's a moral obligation for all of us individually to do that, and that's what's driven us here.
Karan, what was that moment for you? Was it the sabbatical you took, or discovering yoga and meditation, or was it something else which we don't yet know about?
Yeah, I think at a more broader level, I would say ki, I feel like there are two kind of paths to success in a way almost. Like one is the path that we all know of, which is be very goal driven, ki, you know, like I'm a finance guy, I'll start an company, I'll do this. And I think that suits a certain kind of personality very well. And then I think there is another path which is a bit of a rolling stone kind of a path. And I feel like what I've learned, I think, in the last few years is that it's okay to be a rolling stone. So I started in business. I took a year off to write a novel. Then I took a year off to learn yoga and meditation. Then I came back to business. Then I left everything and I thought I would start an artist retreat in Ecuador. So we with my family, I went to Ecuador, and wo chala nahi, lost a bunch of money. And then what happens is that you start to realize that it's okay if you are like completely consumed by what you are doing and they're in multiple dimensions. Like what happens is that somehow your dots connect. Like I think, for example, when Discovery Channel in India was looking for a CEO, they were like, we need a business person who's also creative, who's had a strong creative path. And when they started to look for it, it wasn't that hard to find it. So you get that one job. So I've realized ki like this 100% good at one thing is one path, and the other path is ki you become 50% good at a bunch of things, and then in the end something comes up which is exactly right for you, and you know you take it and then you do something else. So I think this goal-driven path of success. So for me, I think I've lost all, I guess, goals in a way, intention. So right now I'm here. I'm doing my best at Discovery. I think in 2-3 years might take a year and go to Spain and do something, and then like I think the path keeps, as long as you're very clear that you are that you're very clear intented ki you're gonna consume yourself with whatever activity you're doing. I think I feel like sometimes this left, right, either other combinations end up working out for some people. So my advice is to not take anybody's advice. Yeah. So.
Vaidya, I want to know a little bit, and I want people to know a little bit more about your passions. What you've done with Future Capital is amazing, taking a company from 750 crore valuation to 7,500 crores. And whatever you're building there is phenomenal. But outside that, do you have a life? Do you have time?
Okay, see, right through during my ICICI days or my Citibank days, the issue about corporate life for all of us here is that it consumes us day in and day out. And it is a truth for every one of us that if you're not on top of a profession at any point of time, you will either get beaten out, or you won't be successful, or you won't get the professional satisfaction. It's true. But at the same time, time will go by, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years will go by, and suddenly you'll realize that, yaar, kaam hi karte rahe, retire ho gaye, right? I have seen this with many people. And they say, yaar, kya zindagi hai? I say, yaar, all your life, you enjoyed your life working. If that was a passion, if work is a passion, enjoy it and say, boss, yahi mere ko karna hai. No problem with that. Then don't regret it and say, maine kuch nahi kiya. Okay. Now, I think about this. Now, how I thought about it is that while along with this work, I somehow picked up running as a passion when in 2004, I was about 34 years at that point of time. Then, and I started running every other alternative day. And then from then I somehow picked up my first marathon when I was 34 years old, not when I was 25, 26, when the body is fit. 34, I ran my first marathon, and I took something like 2 hours, 10 minutes or something like that. Then next year, I ran a 42-kilometer race. In 2006, I skipped 2005. In 2006, I ran a 42-kilometer race, and I was least prepared for it. I took 5 hours, 45 minutes, which is really very slow. If you ask a marathon, I'll tell you, yaar, ye bhi koi speed hai. Right? It's really very slow. I was like brutally finished. I was cramped and all that stuff. Then in 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, I ran one full marathon a year, a 42-kilometer race. And once in 2011, I ran 2 marathons back to back in a fortnight. Then going this way, it's been, tomorrow I was supposed to run a marathon, thanks to our friend here, Mano. I'm not able to make it. But actually, now this year I'm going to run my 30th marathon, and in January, and I'm planning for the 30th marathon, which is again good. So my plan is that at the age of 50, I want to run a 42-kilometer race. The next thing I'm doing is I learned guitar along the way, and I'm not a talented guy. Actually, I'm not talented at anything. When through my school, through my college, I'm not being falsely modest or anything like that. I really mean it, though I've successfully done professionally.
You're in BIT, right?
Sorry?
You're in BIT, right?
So really, I'm not talented at anything. I'm not talented at singing. I'm not talented at anything at all. But really, along the way, I picked up guitar. Then I figured out, yaar, guitar kar rahe hain. Then someone called me one day and said, yaar, can you perform at a public function, CEO sing for a cause, and can you perform, and people will come and pay. You'll be surprised. People pay 9,000 rupees per person, or some 90,000 rupees a table, and come and pay for it. I said, okay, chalo, किसी का काम हो रहा तो हम भी करते हैं. Then I went to a public performance. I dressed up as Elvis Presley and I performed a song. And I said, you're a chairman of Capital First. तुम जाके ये तुम Elvis Presley पहनता है. तो ठीक है चलो. Next day I got encouraged more. Then the next day I went and I dressed as Stevie Wonder, wearing a yellow dress, wearing the goggles of Stevie Wonder, which is a black dress, and white shoes, and I performed that song. Then last year, just about some time ago, I dressed as an American cowboy and went and performed the song. I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knees. I sang that song and I performed. So I'm a classical case of a guy who जिसका talent zero है, right? By just hard work, कुछ भी achieve कर लेता है.
Himanshu, for you, is it bridge? Is it something else?
I don't know. It's long time. I think you remember college time, how much fun it was. We had 4 years of Teen Patti, if you recall, and then after 5 years decided to go to IIM, and then it was 2 years of bridge. That was how we passed IIM. We went from one room to another. I don't remember having gone to the institution, but that was the time when we had the fun. Our dear friend was nice enough to say that either you have passion or you have work.
work ka passion bana lo.
Correct. And that is where we are, that we have a work ka passion, because we love to work. It's not that I've never had a feeling कि अरे ये क्या कर रहे हैं. You're actually really enjoying yourself of what you are doing, and this is becoming very much part of this. And I have an advantage of my family, my wife, my children, all of them leave me alone. So if you come home early, then you have a problem. So that becomes a bigger problem. So I've never got a chance to be able to run a marathon, but we make sure that every week we are running 100 kilometers. So that is the principle that we follow. And you make sure that you have playing a sport at any point of time, but that sport is not my passion. So I'm not good at it. So we had a Teen Patti, then we went to bridge, then we went to tennis. We played tennis for quite some time because we got company. And when we stopped getting company, then we had to go to, now it is running. But it has never reached a stage that I wanted to go competitive or go for a marathon. I run for myself there. But that gives you energy to get your work done. I would not.
2018 में मेरे साथ आ गए आप.
Thank you.
Arup, what about you?
So I think I would like to classify, I've got two major passions I'm very, very passionate about. One is travel, and like you rightly said. So I'm very passionate about travel because I like to learn about cultures. That's one thing. So I have put a personal goal that by the time I'm done with my professional life, I should at least have spent time in 100 countries worldwide. So as of today, just so everybody knows, and if you have your iPhone, there is an app called Bean, B-E-E-N. You can download that. As of this morning, I have visited 75 countries in the world. with 2 more being added this year. So thank you. But here's the interesting part with that travel. In all those 75 countries, the only reason it gets ticked is I must have Indian food. And I can tell you, in the 75 countries that I've been to, I have eaten Indian food. And only in then it gets counted. Yes, absolutely. And that's the popularity of Indian food, guys. It is in the remotest of countries in the world, you will find a Indian restaurant there, guys. So somebody is making it, but it is there. And food, of course, ranges in variety. Though I will say, in my years of experience, the best Indian food I've ever had, you'll be shocked when I say that, was in a country called Estonia. Unbelievable, guys. And I tell you, looking at my size, you know I like good food. So that was a beautiful place where I had an excellent Indian restaurant. So that was one passion. Second is sports. I love sports. I used to play for BIT in multiple sporting events, cricket, field hockey, and of course soccer as well, and table tennis. I used to be the #2 champion during my times in BIT. But sports of all kinds, obviously all the US sports, I track them not just at a professional level, but I track them from the school level. So right from universities to how people get into professional sports, I look at, of course, cricket and many sports. And I'll tell you the reason, and this is a data that you might be very interested to know. 75% of the CEOs in the United States, when they get up in the morning, of course they grab their cup of coffee. The first thing they do is look at sports news. And if you did not know this, there is more money spent by US CEOs on college sports than on professional sports. They are passionate about their alumni, and alumni coaches, just so you know, make more money than professional sports guys. And that is why if you want to network with CEOs in the United States, guys, learn sports. It is the best way to break ice, and trust me, you can build long-term partnerships with them. Of course, if you're on a team that is against their team, then you have to be careful in how you position it, but it is a fantastic way of doing it. So, Rajiv, those are 2 of my passions.
No, I was not talking, I was reflecting on a different question because you had asked me what was the turning point. I think I thought something I wanted to share was that I'm 38 years old now, I think 37, 38 years old. When I was 32, which is just 5-6 years ago, I went completely broke, right? So I took a year off to travel. I went in January in the US in 2008. And I came back in December after spending time in, South America, etc., all the places I always wanted to visit. And I came back on the day Lehman Brothers had collapsed in the US, and there was no jobs at all. And it was just like a pretty big Armageddon. And I remember that I had like about $2,000 in my bank account, and and the rent in Washington, D.C. was like $1,700 and stuff. So I was actually sleeping on my sister's couch for a month with no job. And I feel like, for me, it was actually an excellent turning point because I've realized that there are a lot of second acts in life, right? And I think that was very, what happened was that, like, for me, it was a very, now I think how foolish I was to take it so hard. But then I remember at that time, everybody was getting married, buying houses, having their first kids, and I was single, no money, sleeping on my sister's couch. And I was like, yaar, matlab ye kaise ho gaya ki 32 pe, ye kaise ho, how did this end up becoming my life? And then suddenly, 3 months later, I found a job, etc., etc. You get back. And then the same thing happened at 35. Again, I invested in a business and lost a lot of money again on, in my startup and didn't go anywhere. And then again, you recover. And I think the turning point was realizing that there are a lot of second acts in life. I personally felt that was very liberating for me because I think it suddenly reset me for good. That if you're capable, passionate, working hard, then something or the other always new options will come your way, and I think that was pretty liberating. I was just reflecting harder on what you said.
Oh, that's great. I think that's a good cue to what I want to end the discussion with, asking our panelists here. One thing I actually want all of you to have some other advice, which I have not asked you right now, both for people here who are been out of the college for some time, even for college, Mr. Birla got me to come onto the General Council as an alumni member for 2 or 3 years. And I think some part of it is because I think some of us have a common belief that BIT has a potential to emerge on the AI, robotics, IoT, and somehow they think I understand technology, which I don't. But I want to get some advice both for people here, all of you, 1 or 2 nuggets which you think is very important for them to know from your experiences, and then for the college, if I can take any feedback back onto the council, I think that's my duty as alumni to do that. Who wants to start?
Okay. I think people attach too much of importance to where you graduated from. It's actually not that relevant when you're in the corporate life. It's your work, it's your performance, it's your passion, it's your energy, it's your motivation, it's how much you enjoy your job, it shows in the job, how excited you are. All these things have so much more role to play than where you came from, what grade, from BIT or from IIT or KIT, or it doesn't really matter. Once you're on the job, it just shows. According to me, this is a very key insight. I have every single time in my first job, when I first got a job from Citibank from BIT, I was very excited. I never thought of 2 years ago, I was some guy living in some small town in Punjab, which is where my father was posted, with the Indian Air Force station. And for me, being with a multinational bank, Citibank, oh my God, well, like life is cracked. I worked hard, very motivated, very energetic, having a positive feeling, I guess, whatever. Then in 2010, I got a job with ICICI Bank to set up the retail banking, auto loans, home loans, and all that stuff. I was very excited. Every moment I was excited with the job. Then I became the head of retail banking. Then I became branch, all that stuff. And I was very excited with the job. Then after that, now with Capital First, we're building the company. We were nothing. We were a startup, maybe 2010. We are now 20,000 crores. I'm very excited about it. So what I'm I'm realizing is that if you're very excited with a job, then it is a big achievement. It's a big positive approach towards life. If we don't like a particular job we're doing, then we should quickly figure out what to do to get out of this to find a job that we like. It's very important because कई लोग सड़ते रहते हैं, जो काम पसंद नहीं है वो करते रहते हैं because उसमें तनख्वाह है, उसमें इनकम है, वो फैमिली है, बीवी है, बच्चे हैं, इंस्टॉलमेंट है, इस चक्कर में हम के फिर हमेशा सड़े रहते हैं, उनको बॉडी नेगेटिव हो जाता है, they become negative with life. So to figure out something that we like, and then, but whatever we pick as a passion, then do it with a lot of excitement. It spreads positivity around, and if we're positive people, then we become more and more successful. That's my quick comment.
I think you give an amazing answer. So let me run through my own life journey. Once we passed out of college, okay, I didn't get any Citibank or anything. We went into our age-old Hindustan Motors. So in Calcutta. And it took me about 10 days to realize that this is not the place I want to be in. And in 40th day, I didn't have a job. I walked out of that place, came to Delhi, and I thought first, let me ask my father if he can help. And suddenly realized that he will start giving me lectures. So immediately had to turn off. And chance of a death, there was a startup. We went to automobile. Again, on a Toyota, worked for 4-5 years, and realized I didn't know what I'm doing. Okay? And immediately, if you realize that you're not sure what you're doing, though you are prepared to put in the hard work, you're learning, you're contributing, you're growing, okay, but you're not satisfied. Okay, that's the time you take a break and decide. And this time we decided it was need to get some education, some talent, some more skills, and that's how we took the management. We got into, but given the fact that we put in 5 years, none of the Citibanks or the Livers wanted anybody who's got experience, and came pat a role in automobile, decided against that, and took a break to get into IT. Okay, that's how the first time to there, I am going to break out of the automobile sector, and that was the best move. Went into IT, working with the entrepreneur, and can make a big difference. If you're working with an entrepreneur or with an MNC, can make a difference. And you realize that the difference is very, very stark, because the opportunities that you get. you, besides the fact that what our friend has talked about, passion, and if you love something, go after it. Also, you should be prepared to take risk. That's a critical component. If you are prepared to take risk and don't believe this is the end of the job, that if you're not liking it and if there are risks, you should be able to get out of the, if you're not growing, if you're not feeling that there is not sufficient enough, it is best to be able to take a route and try something new. Okay, so all of us have tried something new, and first time may not work, second time may not work, but invariably it works. So you should be prepared to take risk, but having taken risk is not sufficient enough. You need to be passionate about it, and you need to really work hard. There is no shortcut through hard work. That has been my, you will invariably, you may start wherever you may start, and you don't believe that's the end goal for you. The end may turn out to be very different from where you started. So my advice to every youngster is, okay, experiment at the start, do a lot of experiment, but put your heart and soul, even if you're putting an experiment. And if it's working well, then go after it. If it's not working out, go ahead and take risks. Change, you should not be afraid to make changes.
I think you pretty much covered most of my points as well, but I think I'd like to just reinforce one of the points, and that is regarding attitude. I think attitude is half the battle. So I have always lived my life a bit on optimism. I've lived on a positive attitude. The words that I typically use when I do things and work with people is the can-do attitude. So oftentimes I'm called Arup can-do Zutshi. So the can-do part is always there, because I really believe that we can do things if we put our mind to it. Obviously, without passion, nothing works. Hard work is critical in today's day and age. But I think the only other point I'd like to add is knowledge. And I think building knowledge, understanding what's happening in the world around you from a business standpoint, economics, political, technology standpoint, being a voracious reader, and that's what I do. And I'm a voracious reader. I read a lot. I read on planes, and that's where I tend to relax a lot more. I read a lot at lounges, and I'm reading literally every time I get an opportunity. And I believe, irrespective of who you are in the organization, at what level you are, knowledge is one thing nobody can compete with. And so if you're a young talent coming out working in the corporate world, a person even with 20, 30 years of experience will always want to engage with you because you've got knowledge that they don't have. And I think that's an area I strongly encourage everybody to do, is be a voracious reader. There is no alternative to knowledge, in my opinion, in addition to all the other points.
Agree with everything. I just have one last, very specific point, actually. I feel like everybody very young should pick up a creative side project. So I think what happens is we are trained, BIT and all of that stuff, and also our education system is very left-brained, very analytical, and we are kind of like, that muscle is developed very well. I think the earlier in your life you can pick up one side project, and I mean like real seriously, not a hobby, but you get very deep into the creative field in some way. That could be writing a book or composing an album, or not just like experimenting, but really picking it up and going deep. I feel like what happens is that your life becomes very, very rich, because when you realize that in any creative field, it's almost like you have a well, and with every creative project, you put all of the learnings of your life and your experiences into a project, and then your well completely diminishes, and then you have a thrust in you that I should gather more experiences and very wide experiences so that I can fill the well again, and then you put it on the project again. And that's something that only you can do it in business, but on a creative side, you do it in a very personal, emotional, heart-rendering way, and I think your life becomes very deep and rich as a result. And I think this is something that nobody tells you. Like I didn't write a book until 28 or something. Like I didn't even know that I could write a book, or I could like have that experience. But if I had known this, I would have probably started developing that muscle very early in my life. And that could be writing a book, composing an album, but having a creative project that you push to excellence will make your life richer at minimum. and like, emotionally richer at minimum. And as I said, sometimes it can make you, I guess, physically richer as well if the left and the right brain is a very unique combination that not too many people have, I guess, like developed.
I think when I listened to these answers and when I remember the panels we did last year, I think a lot of this advice is very useful for many of our children. And it's a pity we can't get them excited to come and attend some of this. But hopefully parents will take the nuggets of advice which is relevant for their children and at least share with them, or children, youth, teenagers, adults, whatever it is. I think the reason we put panels like this together is it's a theme. Even the last time, I try and encourage people to think about taking risk. I had a big speech last time about saying, at teenagers, you don't know what you want to do in your life, but the best person in my life is who is at 30 or 40 doesn't know what they want to do with their life next. I think the unique opportunities come out of it. Always knowing what the future will hold doesn't really work. Life is a lot about events, random people, random connections, falling into place for a magical moment which could last a week, a year, or a lifetime in case of a spouse. And if we can get Bitosa Mumbai to sort of help create some of these moments for even 2 or 3 or 4 people, I think that'll be worth the effort. I do know there is, so the point of view is, that everybody out here has taken risks. All of us have taken risks. I just hope that one theme I want to drive to people to start taking risk and start reinventing your life whenever you are not happy with it. I'm not saying go drop what you're doing, but go reinvent your life, pick something up, take the risk. There will be hopefully somebody to help you along the way. If you are positive and if you have the right attitude, I think makes a big difference, and you kill yourself working hard. I know there's a lot of times people, not just here, in the broader community, alumni community, want to reach out to stalwarts around, get help. It does get challenging because everybody has their own lives, but I know Vaidya got asked this question. I'm sure Himanshu gets chased a lot. For people who want to connect and help. And I don't know what you want to recommend to people. What can people do? I know there is any willingness to help with advice or anything one can do, but it's just most people don't end up having time in the roles we do and the cities we live. Is there anything people want to volunteer or do? I mean, we want to try and help. Everybody wants to try and help. I think that's the idea of the goal today, to get together. But if, I don't know, Himanshu, Vaidya, you guys, I'm sure, get chased down a lot, from sponsorships to jobs to anything. Is there a magic mantra to get the 30-second elevator pitch in front of you? I mean, find the elevator first, but...
Okay, chalo, let me give it a go. Now, sometimes people expect, yaar, मैं भी BIT का हूँ, तुम भी BIT के हो. I am 1973 बैच, मैंने तुमको ईमेल लिखा, तुमने मेरा जवाब नहीं दिया. ओके, मैं कहता हूँ सच बात तो है बॉस, अपनी ज़िंदगी भी है ना बॉस. दिन शुरू होता है, 100 मेल आते हैं. Those people who are writing a mail to you, who are writing in official capacity, they are expecting a response. And if you don't expect a response, I mean, you have to anyway respond, not only for their sake, but probably your own sake also. Then somebody will say, happy birthday, happy new year, happy Diwali. I have to be honest with you people, boss, मेरे को कोई जवाब happy Diwali, मेरे को time ही नहीं है करने को. Thank you बोलूँगा, 1000 बार thank you बोलना पड़ता है. नहीं होता, boss. I have to be honest with you. So therefore, when people think that, it's not that we are arrogant or anything like that, time नहीं है. Right? Today I am here with you, I am very happy I am here with you. But if people start reaching me, saying that please give me mentorship, once I went to speak at a program in Business World, some entrepreneurship award, then people पीछे आके saying, boss, can you be my mentor? I want to be a mentor, मेरा दिल है, time नहीं है. I have to be honest. Therefore, I have found the only way of dealing with a situation where you want to be of assistance of a person, but you don't have the time. How do you sort it out? For example, for this program, if someone comes, some people like, Sanjeeva or etc., when they reach out, I greatly appreciate, apart from your regular job and that you're doing, if you took time to organize this, you've done an amazing job. I really appreciate it. But coming back to me, therefore, what is the way? Now we have a job, we have stakeholders, we have a board, we have employees, we have everybody. How do you deal with the situation? So I have found the only way of dealing with the mass set of people is to deal with Twitter. I am not on Facebook. I feel it's a waste of time. So therefore, I am on Facebook, but I try not to go there. Now I am on Twitter. Now whatever I do, I try to post it there. whatever, if I have an insight, if I read a good quote, if I got a good wisdom that I got by reading somewhere, if I heard a speech by someone, I liked a speech they said, it is a wisdom I absorbed, I go and tweet it there, so-and-so said this, so that I can disseminate. So one-to-many is the only model I have discovered of dealing with people. It is not that because, तो वैद्य तो बड़ा आदमी हो गया, बात नहीं करता. ऐसे नहीं है यार, time ही नहीं है. Okay, so my only honest answer to that situation is that bada choda koi bhi nahi hota, first of all, everybody reached whatever they reached and everybody fulfilled the potential. That's great. But honestly, the truth is that my model is one-to-many through Twitter. I am available at Vaidyanathan19, and that's my best way of dealing with the situation.
I guess we've had colleagues who 30, 40, I am 57. So you tend to, as you obviously, you spend so much time, you become a lot more private person rather than, and the more the public role you have, the more the private person one tends to become. Because you hardly get time for yourself, for your family. So I'm sure everybody has expectations, and it is our responsibility to be able to see how we can help. But realize that while we may be public figures, we are bound by a certain set of rules, certain responsibilities, and within the framework we can do. So I think invariably what I've realized that people somehow feel that they need support when actually they don't need support. They need advice rather than support. And the better advice comes in from your own friends, from your own colleagues. Support, financial supports are only at limited point of time. Anyhow, I'm amazed, and I really must admit that Sanjeev and Subhash are doing an amazing job, because and Rajiv, their persuasion that realizes that how much persuasion, they're really persuasive. They don't leave any communication channel, whatever channel that may exist. they will reach out, and that's great. That's why we are all here. That's the reason why we are. This is an association which is thriving. All of us are participating, and we would like to contribute. We definitely like to contribute. I don't think anybody is against contribution, but you keep thinking which is the best way that you would like to contribute, whether you should contribute here, or you should spend a little extra money on CSR, or if the time is all limited, if all of us have, end of the day, 14 hours to work on, and 12 hours work consumes, and only 2 hours is available for your passion, where do you associate yourself? But I guess I have realized that 95% of the time when people approach you, they just approach without having thought about it, that they really need the help, or who is the better bet for advice. But having said that, our heart remains with our college, our heart remains with our friends, and we will always do in our small way, whichever way we can do, we'll always contribute.
Okay, I think we run a little over time, but I hope you enjoyed it.
I have to make one last comment before this. I take this opportunity of wishing every one of you who have part of the BIT system the very, very, very best. You may, like he pointed out, you may reach out to people. If time permits, we will support, we will help. If time doesn't support, we will probably redirect you here and there. But whichever way possible, every one of us are very thankful to our institution. And I must conclude by saying that Rajiv just did an absolutely amazing job this evening. So I hope all of you join me in giving him a very, very big round of applause for doing a wonderful job in moderating the discussion today. Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure, very great pleasure being with all of you, and wish you very best. I wish you a very, very happy Diwali coming up.
Thank you.
I was the question on how to reach out and stuff. I just wanted to give one, advice, in some form, which is, I think if you touch someone's heart, they always respond. And if you are asking for a transaction, 95% of the time, it's hard to respond. So when somebody says, I want a job at Discovery, it's very hard to respond because the volume of that is very high. But when someone says, ki yaar, I'm suffering in my job because I'm just giving you an example in which they open their kimono, bare their heart. My heart bleeds and I respond. So I think that that's true to almost most people, that life, if it's a transaction, we won't, it's hard to respond. But when your heart is very much into something, then you always respond. So that's why, yeah. But real pleasure and thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know Sheetal, you're going to take over. So I think, I want you guys to give them a big round of applause. They have really changed their lives to be here.
Thank you very much.
Arup changed flights. Vaidya cancelled a flight. He had to go run. He actually gave up on his passion to be here. I want to thank Sanjeeva for forcing me to get involved with this 2 years ago. It actually started my own journey of giving and trying to help in whichever way I can. And I'm happy to rope in other younger people onto it. And I hope Bitosa Mumbai, I think I really want all of you to put Bitosa Mumbai on the map for the most active alumni for BIT globally. That is a passion I would want to see, and I hope others can take it up and pursue it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sirs, for being here with us on the auspicious evening today. Thank you so much. We are really honored to have you all here.
Hello.